This story sounds like a thrilling Hollywood movie, but it's a real-life drama shaking the entire entertainment industry. An Oscar-winning actor, a global music diva, and one of the most powerful moguls in showbiz, all find themselves at the center of a courtroom in Manhattan, where every word, every glance threatens to crack open secrets buried for years. And in the middle of that tense courtroom sits Ben Affleck, the same man who once graced red carpets with a dazzling smile, now taking the witness stand with a somber face and none of his former shine. In his hands is not a movie script, but a notebook filled with scribbled notes, a grainy but heavy video clip, and a testimony powerful enough to make Diddy slam the table in fury, while Jennifer Lopez stood speechless. What's about to be revealed might forever change the way you see Hollywood. This isn't just news. This is the collapse of a powerful empire, a political game within the entertainment industry, and maybe the most unexpected counterattack from a man who once loved deeply. To truly understand the shock this trial is causing, we have to rewind 2 decades, to when Bennifer became the symbol of Hollywood's fairy-tale romance. In 2002, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez were the media's hottest couple. He was a young, suave movie star. She was a sexy, bold pop icon. They appeared side by side at every major event, from the Oscars to blockbuster promos.
The $2.5 million pink diamond engagement ring Ben gave Jen made the world soon.
To the public, they were the dream couple, a modern-day fairy tale. But that glow didn't last. In 2004, just days before their wedding, they announced their breakup, leaving millions of fans heartbroken. Each went their separate ways. Jennifer got married, divorced, fell in love again, and split again. Ben, too, went through dark times, battling alcoholism and mental health struggles. But fate had other plans. In 2021, they unexpectedly got back together. People called it Bennifer 2.0, a stunning return of a love believed long gone. Only this time, the sweetness was missing. Strange signs began to surface. Jennifer often disappeared at night for work, but never shared details. Her phone was always on silent, locked by fingerprint, with passcodes that constantly changed. Ben tried to trust her, but his instincts, the same gut that made him a brilliant actor, started sounding alarm bells. Every time he brought up Jennifer's past with Diddy, she'd dodge the topic. One time he asked directly, "Is there anything you haven't told me?" She coldly replied, "That's the past, Ben. Not worth reopening." But the look in her eyes told a different story, one hiding something far bigger. Then one night, while Jennifer was asleep, Ben received an anonymous email. Just one short line: "She never really left Diddy. Check her phone." From that moment, suspicion turned into fire. And that fire, as you're about to see, would burn through what was left of trust, of love, and of a silence that had lasted for years. After that fateful night, Ben Affleck was no longer a man in love. He became a man investigating. What's remarkable is that he didn't act out. He didn't confront Jennifer in rage. Instead, he began quietly digging. And that calm led him to a truth even he couldn't believe at first. The notebook, the first piece of evidence he brought to court, was something he found in an old room, locked with Jennifer's own birthdate as the passcode. Inside were messy scribbles, names, phone numbers, and diagrams. One of the maps led to a luxurious villa on Bear Island, a location Diddy often used for exclusive parties, reserved only for the real power names in entertainment. But it wasn't just a map of a house. It was a blueprint of an underground system, a hidden tunnel connecting the party space to a basement not listed on any official plans. Weeks later, Ben approached a former construction engineer who had worked for Diddy back in 2016. The man initially refused to speak. But after being guaranteed anonymity and legal protection, he confirmed, "I designed a special soundproofing system for the basement level." The owner insisted no sound could leak outside. When I asked why, I was told, "It's a private rest area. VIPs need privacy." But the strange thing is, there were no windows. Then came a video clip, reportedly from a hidden camera dated 2019, showing black SUVs arriving and leaving at midnight. People stepping out were sometimes recognizable artists, sometimes unidentifiable individuals, all carefully shielded. No one exited through the main door.
No one drove away in the morning.
When this footage was played in court, the room went dead silent. And one last detail in the notebook made the air even heavier. Jennifer Lopez's name, circled, with a chilling note beside it. Do not let her face be seen. At that moment, Ben's eyes weren't angry. They were weighed down. He looked at Jennifer, the woman he once thought was his life's purpose.
She said nothing.
Her head bowed.
No rebuttal. No visible emotion.
Under the cold court lights, amidst the folders and video screens, the past and present collapsed onto each other, and we began to understand. This wasn't just a private issue between three people. This was part of a darkness Hollywood had buried for years. Ben Affleck didn't take the witness stand like an actor stepping into the spotlight. There were no flashes, no claps, no glamour. Just the gravity of truth, of conscience, and of a man who once loved deeply enough to forgive the deepest fractures, until he realized that love doesn't always save everything. When the plaintiff's attorney asked Ben to begin his statement, no one knew what he'd say. But what stunned the courtroom wasn't the accusations. It was the way he told his story. Calm, clear, no rage, no theatrics. He didn't speak like a victim. He spoke like someone who had passed through pain, uncovered the truth, and finally chose not to stay silent another second. At first, I thought I was just being jealous, Ben said, his voice low and steady. I thought my gut feelings were just old wounds resurfacing. But the deeper I went, the harder it became to turn back.
He found things
I wish I'd never discovered. He spoke about the anonymous email. About the first time he dialed an unfamiliar number found in Jennifer's phone, and heard Diddy's voice on the other end. Low, cold, and threatening.
You're digging too deep, Ben. Be careful, before you hurt the people you love.
A warning as soft as a whisper, but as heavy as a bullet. Ben paused. The tension in the courtroom was razor tight. Then he said a line that would later be quoted in headlines everywhere. I'm no longer the leading man in a love story. This isn't a movie.
This is real life.
And if I don't speak the truth, then who will? To some, Ben's actions were reckless. To others, they were betrayal. But to those who understand the long-standing culture of silence in the entertainment world, where power hides everything, where those with a voice often choose to stay quiet to protect their careers, Ben showing up in court was a direct punch to the moral mask Hollywood had worn for decades. Some compared him to a real-life Will Hunting. Intelligent, wounded, but ultimately brave. Others said he was just a hurt man out for revenge on an ex. But perhaps, it's far more complicated than that. Because in this story, no one is purely a hero. But there is, without question, one person who stepped out of his comfort zone to face it all. And that person was Ben Affleck. Sean Diddy Combs had long been seen as an unshakable icon of American music. A hip-hop king with a fortune in the hundreds of millions, his own fashion empire, and a string of legendary hits. Diddy wasn't just a music producer. He was a force. And in Hollywood, scandals can be survived, criticism can be brushed off, but very few dare to go up against a force like that. But cracks began to form the moment Ben Affleck arrived in court with evidence no one had expected. In the weeks leading up to it, subtle signs of unrest had surfaced. Several young artists previously signed with Diddy suddenly deleted their thankful posts about him from social media. Intimate photos were taken down.
Songs disappeared from Spotify without a word.
Still, it all remained rumor. Until Ben pulled the trigger in court, and the mask began to fall. The trial wasn't over yet, but shockwaves had already spread across media platforms. A wave of hashtags exploded on Twitter, hashtag expose the tunnel, hashtag Diddy Files, hashtag justice for Ben. A short clip of Ben's testimony was leaked, where he said, I don't care who's backing him. I care that the truth gets out. That quote spread like wildfire, making headlines everywhere. Even insiders began to speak up. A stylist who had worked at one of Diddy's events in 2020 revealed, we were told not to make eye contact with VIPs at those night parties. It felt like we were working for some underground group, not an entertainment gig. At the same time, unexpected connections started surfacing. One of Diddy's financial partners had ties to a real estate brokerage firm, specializing in buying homes with unusual structural features. A real estate blogger known for investigating weird properties in Los Angeles posted a video breakdown. Diddy's villa on Bear Island has 3 underground levels. That's extremely rare for this area. There's no public planning document that shows any of it. Even those in the industry who seemed unrelated were getting dragged in. Beyoncé, who had previously collaborated with Diddy on a few major events, was pressed hard during an interview. She didn't answer, just shrugged and said, "I don't know anything more than you do." The response was too short, too cold, and only fueled more suspicion. As for Diddy, the man who once stood untouchable, he was now the focal point of a federal investigation. His legal team scrambled to dismiss all allegations, calling it a fabricated story meant to destroy a reputation. But when asked about Ben's notebook, the video footage, and the secret tunnel blueprint, all they said was, "No comment." That silence, in this context, felt like a confession. And the public wasn't waiting on a courtroom verdict. They were already drawing conclusions based on gut, instinct, and fear that what's come to light so far may just be the tip of the iceberg. For years, Jennifer Lopez had been the image of a successful modern woman. Strong, sexy, independent, and always in control of her public persona. But now, that image was starting to crack.
No more stage lights.
No more glamorous gowns.
No more prude runway strides.
Outside the courthouse, under the cameras of swarming reporters, stood a quiet woman, eyes concealing her emotions, wrapped in a silence the world was desperate to decode. The biggest question now: is Jennifer Lopez a victim, or someone who knew everything but chose silence to protect something bigger than her own fame? Let's go back to 1999, when Jennifer and Diddy first went public with their relationship. At the time, she was just stepping out of minor film roles, while he was already one of the industry's most powerful producers. They were a headline-making couple, until they got caught up in a nightclub shooting in New York. Jennifer was arrested alongside Diddy, but just days later, she was released and never charged. Meanwhile, Diddy faced months of investigation. The public quickly forgave the incident, chalking it up to a bad night, and Jennifer's career skyrocketed. But to those within the industry, that moment marked a silent turning point. A trade-off between silence and opportunity. Now, in Ben's notebook, the name Jennifer Lopez is clearly written, not once, but multiple times. A symbol next to her name made everyone shiver. Do not let her face be seen. What does that mean? Was she there, present in those tunnels beneath Bear Island, but shielded from exposure? Or did she witness the horrific events Ben now accuses Diddy of, yet was forced to stay silent, bound by something more powerful than a contract, a pact forged in influence? A former assistant of Jennifer's, who quit just months into the job, gave an old interview in 2018. Now resurfacing, Jen had this small wooden box. No label. But I saw her open it once and just stare at whatever was inside, for a long time. When I asked her what it was, she said, "Memories. Some things are better left in there." Was that just a metaphor? Or a sign she'd been carrying a piece of her past she never dared to confront? As the case unraveled, public opinion grew increasingly divided. Many believed Jennifer was a victim, drawn into Diddy's dark world when she was too young to see the danger, now trying to break free. But others remained skeptical. Why didn't she stand up for Ben, the man who risked everything for her? Why no official statement, no press conference, not even a single Instagram post? That silence, amidst the mounting evidence, was turning her from an icon into a suspect. No one could say for certain if Jennifer Lopez was guilty. But one thing was clear: her once untouchable image was now caught in a storm she couldn't escape. And in this case, the jury wasn't in the courtroom, it was the public, judging from the digital seats of a global social media courtroom. Even before the court delivered any ruling, the internet had already taken sides. Forums, social media platforms, pop culture channels, all were in upheaval. Some hailed Ben Affleck as an accidental hero, a man brave enough to reveal the truth while everyone else looked away. Others believed he was acting out of personal heartbreak, out of betrayal, and that all of this was just a perfectly scripted performance from an actor who knew exactly where the camera was pointed. Twitter turned into a battlefield. The most shared tweet on the first day of the trial read, "Ben Affleck didn't destroy Hollywood, he just pulled back the curtain." Another person clapped back, "If he really cared about justice, he wouldn't tell it like he's chasing an Oscar. This is his stage, not a court." Over on Reddit, thousands debated whether Jennifer Lopez was a silent accomplice or just a woman caught between love and guilt. YouTube flooded with videos analyzing every expression she made in court. One video titled, "The Moment J.Lo Bowed Her Head, Sign of Guilt," racked up over 3 million views in just 2 days. Body language experts chimed in. Entertainment podcasts dissected every sentence of Ben's testimony, every word, every pause, every breath. For audiences, this wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a gripping real-life drama, more intense than any movie, where they were both spectators and judges. What's even more striking is that people began to take a hard look at the entire entertainment industry. Young journalists started writing that now is the time for Hollywood to truly question what it's allowed to slide in the past. The power-based relationships, the private parties, the hush-money deals disguised as legal settlements. Suddenly, what used to be dismissed as wild rumors began to sound disturbingly plausible. And for the first time, an A-list celebrity had taken a stand for the truth, even if the price might be his own career. But the audience wasn't just looking at Ben or Jennifer anymore. They started looking at themselves, the ones who had cheered, shared, and consumed every story cooked up by PR machines. Now they were asking, how many stories did we believe that were never true? How many idols were built on rotting foundations no one dared to dig into? And from that doubt, something strange happened. People began to listen more closely, to analyze more carefully, to resist being blindly led. They were no longer just consumers of entertainment, they were observers, judges, and maybe the ones who could expose the truth. We've come a long way, from the seemingly perfect love story of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, to a courtroom where light is now shining on the darkest corners of the entertainment world. And through this journey, what haunts people most isn't just the evidence or the testimonies. It's how truth had been so thoroughly buried beneath smiles, performances, emotional songs, and glittering lights.
Ben cose no tu stay silent.
He could have kept everything to himself, pretended he knew nothing, and continued living in Hollywood's luxury, where silence is often the only way to survive. But instead, he stood up on the witness stand, bringing with him everything: the pain, the doubt, the shattered trust, and whatever was left of a once great love. He might lose his fame, his roles, and even the affection of a portion of his audience. But in return, he held on to something not everyone in the industry has the courage to keep: his integrity.
As for Jennifer Lopez, everything remains a question mark.
Will she speak up? Or will she stay quiet until the storm passes? Either way, this story has forced the world to confront one harsh truth. Even those considered untouchable might just be links in a chain of dark power that everyone's been too afraid to confront.
Hollywood isn't just dreams.
It's also where nightmares live, if no one dares to turn on the light. And this time, the light didn't come from a director, a producer, or a journalist. It came from someone in the middle of it all. Someone who once loved, once trusted, and was hurt so deeply that silence was no longer an option. There's one thing people rarely talk about after scandals like this. It's not just the accused, or the whistleblower, who carry the burden, but the audience, too. You, the ones watching this video, are often the ones most deeply affected in the long run. Because when a symbol falls, the first thing that breaks is trust. The way we once idolized celebrities, believed in Hollywood love stories, assumed that fame went hand in hand with decency. All of it, shattered without mercy. In recent years, fans have witnessed numerous public downfalls, from Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, to Kanye West and his string of controversial statements. But the story of Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez, and Diddy feels different. This isn't just one person against another. This is one man tearing through a power structure protected by money, fame, and fear.
You see, very few dare to confront the dark side of Hollywood.
Not because they don't see it, but because they believe they're too small to change anything. But the moment one person steps forward, everything begins to shift. And what's worth noting is this: Ben is no longer at the peak of his career. He doesn't need more fame. He's not lacking money. The only thing he has left to protect might be the truth, and he chose to stand by it. There is no perfect ending in stories like this. The court might rule guilty or not guilty. Public opinion could shift overnight. But what truly matters is that we've begun to ask questions. And that is the beginning of awakening. If what you've heard today feels like something people need to know, share this video. Subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the next developments in this case. And comment below, who do you think is telling the truth?
OS hiding something.
Do you believe in the light? Or do you think this is all just a script crafted by those who know exactly what the audience wants?
We live in a world where every view, every comment, every click carries weight.
And sometimes, you, the one sitting there watching this video, might just be the one holding the final piece of the truth.